Hello everybody, welcome back to a new video. Thank you so much for being here. So in today's reading vlog, I will be reading A Court of Wings and Ruin by Miss Sarah J. Maas. This is the third book in the ACOWAR series. I already read the first two books and I have reading vlogs for both of them. Last night, I just finished reading ACOWAR, which is the second book in the series. Absolutely loved that one, and I'm very excited to see where the story will go in this book. Let me read you what it says on the back. By the way, spoilers for the entirety of the ACOTAR series are in full effect, so consider yourselves warned. Okay, so on the back it says feyre will bring vengeance. She has left the Night Court and her High Lord and is playing a deadly game of deceit. Her former lover Tamlin is making deals with feyre's enemies and she is determined to uncover his plans. But can she make him believe she has come back to him when every fiber of her being yearns for Rhysand? As mighty armies clash, Feyre will discover she is not the only one hiding something. And as the web of secrets, lies, and betrayals is revealed, fighting for the truth may cost Feyre and her court the ultimate price. Very excited to see how Nesta and Elaine are going to be brought more to the forefront of the story, because thus far they were pretty negligible characters. I would say like they made an appearance from time to time, but it wasn't anything major. But by how story is told and by the ending of ACOWAR, I'm sure we will see more of them in this third book. So let me brew another cup of coffee and let's begin reading ACOWAR. It is a Sunday today, and I wanted to update you all with my progress thus far with A Court of Wings and Ruin. I am currently on page 414, chapter 44. So I did read quite a bit from this. What is 414 divided by 700?
414 divided by 700 is approximately 0.5914.
Okay, so I am roughly 60% into the book, and let me tell you, this book, I love it. I love it for all of the nonsense, but I also love it for these characters. Like, I didn't really expect to be so attached to some of them. Feyre, at least in the first book, I was like she's not that compelling of a main character, I don't think. But truly, like from the second book and now in this one, she just became so good at like being a high lady that it is quite engaging and quite sweet. I also love the friendship between her and all of the members of the inner circle. I love her relationship with Moore and how their friendship kind of like evolved from the first interaction to now this book, A Court of Wings and Ruin, which is kind of like the conclusion for the main trilogy. And then we have Frost and Starlight and Silver Flames that are kind of like Frost and Starlight is like a novella about them at Christmas, basically, and what gifts they receive and stuff like that. And then Silver Flames is Nesta's story. But from what I know thus far, this is like the conclusion to the main trilogy. Now, if you remember from A Court of Mist and Fury, which was the second book, that one ended with Feyre pretty much agreeing to go with Tamlin, and she kind of like playing off of the fact that Tamlin thought that Rhysand was mind controlling Feyre, so she was like, yeah, he was controlling me, like it was awful, like I want to go with you to the Spring Court if you let everyone basically go back to what they were doing and you don't take any prisoners, right? So the inner circle, Rhys, Elaine, and Nesta go back to Valaris, and then Feyre goes back to the Spring Court with Tamlin and Lucien. But the thing is, we as readers were led to believe that the King of Hybern pretty much broke their mating bond between Feyre and Rhysand, and we learn exactly before the end of ACOWAR from Amron that that's not possible and that's not what's happening, and Feyre is actually a spy for the Night Court in the Spring Court. At the beginning of this book, like it is still quite blurry how she does everything, but she's very good at just like manipulating people, and she does all of these things to turn pretty much everyone against Tamlin. She has this whole thing going on with Ayanti because Ayanti is this priestess that pretty much betrayed her and Tamlin, and she was the one that told the King of Hybern about Feyre's sisters, and that's why they were like submerged in the cauldron and turned high fae. Obviously, Feyre's now out for blood, and this leads to one of my favorite scenes in the book that I will talk about later. But she is keen on bringing the demise of Tamlin and Ayanti and the Spring Court. So she does all of these things in order to turn everyone against Tamlin and to basically surmise the power that Ayanti is so hungry for. There are these twins that I don't remember exactly if they are the kids or the children of the King of Hybern or they're his nephews. Not important. Anyway, they are absolutely horrible, and turns out they can also do some mind control things. And when they are at the table, just like eating together and kind of like talking about war strategies and stuff like that, Jurian tries to make everyone angry so that the twins can basically penetrate through their mental shields and just like figure out what they think and what they want to do, right? And Feyre, all of a sudden, she feels this like gentle twinge, I guess, on her mental shields, and she's immediately, oh my god, the twins want to break my mental shields, let's give them a taste of what I can do. And she's basically casting these shields for Lucian and Tamlin as well, so that the twins can't penetrate through their minds. But she also like unleashes some sort of power on the twins because they're literally like flinching at the table and no one knows what's happening. So the twins are aware that Feyre is like more powerful than she leads us to believe. And at the end of part one in this book, there's this whole confrontation between the twins and Feyre and Lucian, and also Ayanti is there. So what's happening is that if you remember from the previous books, Ayanti is this just like horrible priestess that pretty much is abusing men in order to climb up the social ladder because, as I said, she's just like hungry for power and status. And she did some pretty horrible things to Rhysand and Lucian. And now she also pretty much helped turning Feyre's sisters into high face. So she did like a lot of fucked up things, right? There's this scene at the end of part one where Ayanti is pretty much trying to abuse Lucian again. She has him in these like handcuffs that are not really letting him use his powers, so he can't really defend himself. And Feyre wants to flee. She wants to go to the Night Court. Like, this is enough. I did what I wanted to do. She turned the guards against Tamlin. She turned the people of the Spring Court against Ayanti, and she thinks that's enough. Like she's done with it. She wants to go home in Valaris, right? And when she hears this discussion between Ayanti and Lucian, and she sees that Lucian is quite literally held hostage by Ayanti, she's like, no, 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 you're not doing this on my watch. She basically turns Ayanti's brain to mush, and she is saying to her that like you will not touch anyone ever again without their consent, like you will not do all of these horrible things that you were doing thus far. And she's also making Ayanti destroy her own hand, like she's just smashing a rock on her arm, and everything's just like shredded skin and bones. It's like a really really cool scene, and I loved every second of it because Ayanti is just like mean for kind of no reason really in this story, and I really don't like her at all. But once Feyre is kind of done with Ayanti, the twins make an appearance. And they reveal that they were pretty much poisoning everyone in Tamlin's house with this power that's kind of like inhibiting your fey powers for a while when you consume it, and they were doing it gradually. So that's why, like, throughout the first part of this book, Feyre kind of felt this bond between her and Rhysand, like their mental connection kind of like fizzling out, and she wasn't really sure why. She thought it was only because of the distance between the Night Court and the Spring Court, because they are on the opposite sides of Prythian, but it turns out it was because the twins were quite literally poisoning them, and she is fighting the twins. I think Lucian is taking care of the girl. I forget their names. They were not that important for me, but Lucian is taking care of the girl. Feyre is taking care of the boy, and I'm saying boy and girl, but they're mature, okay? And they pretty much kill both of them. And Feyre is again mind controlling Ayanti, and she's basically telling her what to tell the others when they will find their bodies. They think about this logically. Let me show you the map so that you understand what I'm talking about. But basically, so Springport is here, and then the Night Court is here. So they can't literally go through the Summer Court because Feyre stole from them, and she also kind of betrayed, I think Tarquin is his name, the High Lord of the Summer Court. So they think that their only option is to go through the Autumn Court. The only problem is that Lucian, if you remember from the previous books, Lucian is the son of the High Lord of Autumn, and his father and brothers are just like absolutely horrible. They pretty much made him flee his own court because he just couldn't stand the abuse anymore. Lucian is like, you will need my help to get through the autumn court because I know of these places that are kind of like secluded and we will not be followed and stuff like that. They make it to the autumn court. They are caught by three of Lucian's brothers. They are attacking them. They manage to escape. They are, I think they are like on the border with the Winter Court, or they are in the Winter Court, or something along those lines. But their plan is to actually try to make it to the first. I think these are called the Solar Courts. So if you look here at the bottom of the map, we have the like seasonal quartz, and then here more towards the top of Britian we have the solar quartz, like dusk and day and night. And hold on, because the light is horrible just now. Is it better? Well, kind of. So they think that because the seasonal quartz are basically allies between themselves, they think that the same would be true for the solar quartz, like dawn, day, and night. And because Feyre is High Lady of the Night Court, they think they would find refuge and help in the dawn court. So all they have to do is to basically get through the winter court to the dawn court so that they're safe. Because if they are captured either in the autumn court or in the winter court, they are pretty sure that they will be just returned back to the spring court, and that would not be great for either of them. So they are in the winter court when they are found yet again by Lucian's three brothers. They're having this whole fight scene, and somehow Asriel and Cassian also make an appearance to help Feyre, and they're fighting with Lucian's brothers and stuff like that. Lucian and Feyre are still kind of like pretty weak from the poison. Like they have regained some of their powers, but they're not like fully like 100% back, right? And this is so stupid, but like in the middle of the fight, Feyre is like, oh wait, like I'm actually High Lady of the Night Court, and she's just like revealing the tattoo of that bond between her and Rhysand, and she's like, I am High Lady of the Night Court, and I order all of you to stop, and they will stop. And I'm like, girl, you couldn't do that like 100 pages ago. Like, what's happening? But anyway, she makes everyone stop. Cassian and Asriel are helping Feyre and Lucian go back to Valaris, so they eventually get back home, or at least get back to Feyre's home. Back in Valaris, obviously, Feyre goes see her sisters, Nesta and Elaine. Nesta is again just being Nesta. She is so annoyed with everyone and everything, and she just wants to read her smut alone in the library. When she sees Feyre, she's like, oh hey, like what do you want? And Feyre's like, well, are you okay? Like, I've been missing for a couple of weeks, months, whatever they were, and I just want to see how you're doing. It turns out that Elaine, she has like pretty severe PTSD from the events of the second book, and she's just like a shell of a person. And Nesta is quite worried about her sister, right? And when Feyre sees her, she starts thinking again, like, oh my god, this is my fault. Like, I did this to them. I got them into this, and I basically ruined their life. Elaine is even more so like in shock, because she was supposed to get married to this lord from their town, from their mortal town, but that lord really hated fairies. So she's like, there's no way in hell I can marry him now because I am a fairy. Anyway, it's a whole thing. So Elaine is in pretty rough shape, to say the least. Turns out that Feyre can shapeshift, and she has wings now if she wants to. So she asks the inner circle for help because she wants to learn how to fly with the wings. And Cassian and Rhys are like, yeah, we can help you. And then Asriel kind of like comes in, and he's like, no, like I will help you because I learned how to fly pretty late in my life, and it's like a whole different thing. There are like completely different mechanics because when you're an adult, or when you're at least more mature than a kid, you're kind of scared of dying. as one is. There's also this library in Valaris that Feyre never visited thus far, but she and Rhysand go there because I guess they want to research ways on how to counteract the cauldron. It's kind of murky, but they go there, and Rhysand tells her the story about these priestesses that are living there. Basically, they're all kind of like refugees from very severe abuse, either it being like mental abuse or sexual abuse that was inflicted by men. There's this very weird scene between Feyre and Rhysand because after we learned all of those horrible things, Rhysand and Feyre start hooking up in the same library. And I'm like, well, was that really necessary? Like, we just learned that these priestesses are survivors of sexual abuse. Do you really want to do that there? There's this whole scene also with this pit that exists like in the middle of the library, and I forget exactly which one of them, Cassian or Asriel. I think it was Asriel that once went down there, and he's just like scared of telling Rhysand what he saw there. Apparently, it's something pretty horrific, and that comes to play later when Feyre and Nesta are attacked by two of Jurian's, or not Jurian's, but like Hybern's soldiers, I guess. And she uses her power as High Lady on the monster that's in the pit to help them, basically. And I'm pretty sure that pit will come to play also in Nesta's book in Silver Flames, but I might be remembering some things wrong. Okay. Feyre comes up with this idea that even though Hybern has like a lot of allies, like it's not only Prythian, there are also other like territories adjacent to Prythian that are willing to help Hybern because they have military forces, they have money and stuff like that. So it would be very easy for them to help Hybern. Feyre is thinking, okay, like they have the manpower, but we might have the monsters. Like there's this prison where Amren was captive, and there are all of these like horrible monsters that are lurking in that prison. So she's thinking maybe we can free the bone carver, and in exchange of that, he can basically help us in the upcoming war. And even though Rhysand doesn't really like the idea, he's like, yeah, like we can try that. Feyre and Cassian go back to the prison unbeknownst to Amren, because Amren is quite secretive and testy on how she was able to escape the prison. She is not really open about that because she's just literally so scared to go back there. Everyone that goes to the bone carver, they see like a different person, a different version of the bone carver. And Feyre in the previous books is seeing like a young boy, and she doesn't really know who he is. Well, we learn now that that boy is hers and Rhysand's kid, or like a version of their future child. That has to be relevant later, right? Right? So anyway, they go to the bone carver, and he's like, well, I'm not really interested in anything that you have to offer. Like, I really like this prison. I'm like on my own. I'm not really interrupted by anyone or anything. So I'm like, I don't want to escape. Like, I'm good. Cassian and Feyre talk about going to the Court of Nightmares. And the bone carver's like, wait, are you going to the Court of Nightmares? Like, they have something that I want. And this I think it's called the Ouroboros, I believe. Anyway, it's this mirror that can look in other worlds or other dimensions. It's still not quite that well explained in the part of the book that I read, but apparently the bone carver really wants this mirror. This mirror is in the Court of Nightmares. Again, from the previous book, the Court of Nightmares is part of the Night Court, and it is kind of ruled by Mor's father, who is absolutely atrocious, but he has a lot of people in his army, apparently. When they go there, Feyre is asking him for the mirror, like she needs the mirror, and he's like, yeah, you like be my guest, you can get it, but just know that everyone who tried to take it for themselves, like when you take it, you have to look into it, And he says that everyone that tried to take the mirror and look into it just was turned mad, was turned insane. So Feyre's like, okay, maybe that's out of the table. So we will not be able to get the help of the bone carver because I can't really retrieve the mirror. Like, she's quite scared about this. Back at the House of Wind, Elaine starts saying some just like random things. Like, she's saying something along the lines of there was this queen who was young and it was turned into a crone, and there was also this like older queen that was turned into like a younger version of herself or something like that. And she also says something about some ravens, one white one and one black one. No one really knows what she's talking about. Turns out these are really foreshadowings. Like, Elaine, because she was made in the cauldron, made with capital M, obviously, she is now turned into a seer that can kind of see or predict the future. We don't know exactly quite how that works. But after they learned what happened to the two mortal queens that were present in the throne room, like at the end of ACOWAR in Hybern, when they wanted to use the cauldron for themselves and they wanted to be turned into fairies, they learned that the younger one was turned into a crone, and then the older one still is like an older version of herself or is young now. I don't know exactly, but it was exactly what Elaine was saying, like very cryptically, but it was the same thing. And then later on in the book, when Feyre and Nesta are attacked by those two like Hybern soldiers, guards, whatever they were in the library, they are called the Ravens. So that's what Elaine was talking about. And they now know that she kind of like can see the future, can predict the future. Elaine also tells them that the sixth mortal queen is held somewhere hostage. She's a captive, and she also seems to be like a firebird, like a phoenix, right? And she's a phoenix by day and mortal queen by night, or something along those lines. And apparently, she's not alone. There are other women there who can basically transform into these birds. And because Elaine is seeing this, they think that it can be relevant for their cause. Like, maybe somehow this mortal queen, who's also a firebird or whatever she is, can help them in the war. And they're thinking to go to look for her. The problem is that they all are quite busy. Solutions like, I can go. I don't have anything else to do. Like, I can go and look for her. And also, he was like studying the maps of Britian. He is quite familiar with the layout of the lands and everything. So he is quite sure that he can achieve this thing of finding the lost mortal queen that has this like power that they can use in the upcoming war. We kind of sort of learn more about Amren. She's still her mysterious self, but she tells the gang how she was able to escape the prison. She basically had to give up like a huge part of herself because she's this like larger than life super immortal being, and she had to give up like a lot of her older self to be like now encapsulated in this mortal, well, not mortal, but like not as immortal body as she used to have. And she is obviously quite pissed at everyone for going to the prison to see the bone carver without her knowledge. Amron is trying to help Nesta figure out what her power is, and at this point in the book they are somehow like more sure that it has something to do with death. The bone carver, when Feyre and Cassian go to see him, the bone carver is really excited about Nesta. Like, he's asking about her because he doesn't know what she is or what she can do, but he is really excited about her, about the fact that she was stern. So Feyre starts to believe that her power might be like a very destructive thing, because if the bone carver was that excited about her power, what is it that her sister can do? Other than training with Amron, Nesta is also starting helping the gang with researching the cauldron's powers and how that whole situation works. It's again still quite fuzzy how she's doing that and how they're able to research that. Feyre, I think, is asking her, like, what is it exactly that she's looking for? Because Feyre herself doesn't know. And Nesta's like, well, Amron told me that I will know when I see that information or when I stumble upon it. So I'm just like looking and seeing if that happens. Next up, the Summer Court is attacked by Hybern. And even though the Summer Court has its own like military forces, they are not that powerful because the Summer Court is quite like a peaceful place and they don't really expect to be attacked by anyone, really. When the gang learns this, they all go to help the Summer Court. Tarkin is terrified, and when he sees that Rhysand and the Inner Circle and everyone from the Night Court is there, he's not really sure what's happening. Like, he doesn't really know if they are on his side or if they are helping Hybern. He's quite out of everything, really. Like, he doesn't understand what's happening. And Rhysand is telling him like, hey, we came to help because we heard that you're being attacked, and we helped you neutralize the enemy, so we are planning on doing this meeting with all of the high lords of all of the courts from Prythian, so we would really appreciate if you would show up to that meeting. In this book, there's also like a weird sexual tension between Cassian and Nesta, and they don't communicate well at all. Nesta is pissed at Cassian because if you remember from the first book, Cassian was all like, I will protect you, and like I'm a trained warrior, like I'm a soldier, I'm a general, I will be protecting you with the cost of my life if it's necessary. And Nesta, turns out, is now angry with Cassian that he didn't do that and that he didn't save her and Elaine from being turned to high fae. But when that happened, Cassian's wings were quite literally like cut off and he couldn't move, basically, like he couldn't do anything. So Nesta is guilt tripping him, and Cassian's like, yeah, I'm a piece of shit, I was not able to help you and Elaine, and I deserve your cold treatment. Rhysand calls this like emergency meeting with all the high lords. They all wanted like a neutral place, and they figure out that the Dawn Court would be the most appropriate location for that meeting. So they scheduled the meeting for the Dawn Court, and also Nesta is now the human emissary of the Night Court. They have this meeting, they go to the Dawn Court for this meeting, everyone starts to make an appearance, the other high lords from the other courts start to arrive, and we see the High Lord and his mate, his wife of the Winter Court. Their names are Kilius and Vivian. And when Moore sees Vivian, they're all like giddy with excitement. Turns out they're very good friends, and they've known each other for quite a while, so they're very happy to see each other. And we also have this like very cutesy, sweet story of how Kilius and Vivian met. And basically, Kilius was like trapped under the mountain. Vivian was not there, like she was at the Winter Court at a different location, and she basically took care of the Winter Court in Kilius's absence. And right when he was free from under the mountain, they got married. So now they're kind of like the same as Rhys and Feyre. They're like lovey-dovey, and they're really happy that they are now husband and wife and also mates. Everyone showed up at this meeting with the exception of Tamlin, and some of the other High Lords are asking like, hey, can we start this? Like, has everyone arrived? And right in that moment, and also the moment when I stopped reading because it was getting quite late yesterday, right in that moment, Tamlin, in his beast form, barges into the room. So yeah, that is the end of the last chapter that I read. 60% into the book, I still have like roughly 300-ish pages to read. Hopefully I will read a good chunk of that today. I also have to film another video, to edit another vlog. We'll see what's doable for today. I'll continue reading and I will update you when I finish A Court of Wings and Ruin. Guess who finished ACOWAR? I finished this last night and I really thought about the things that happened. Let me tell you, no death from this series impacted me as much as the death of the suriel. It was so emotional for no apparent reason. I bawled my eyes out when I read that scene. And this is a character that we meet three times, one time per book, right? Like every single time Feyre has exhausted all of her options, she kind of goes to the suriel for help. The suriel is kind of like a Google search for your personal issues, I guess. But we're gonna talk more about the suriel in a second. So when I last updated you, Rhysand called that emergency meeting with all of the High Lords, and the last one that showed up was Tamlin. Obviously, everyone is kind of arguing with one another, and there are some pretty horrible things that are said by the High Lord of Autumn towards Moore, and Asriel is trying to kill him. Basically, it's a whole thing. But they finally kind of agree on the fact that they want to spend the night there in the, was it the Dawn Court where they were at the meeting? Yes, the Dawn Court. So they agree, all of them, that they want to spend the night there because there's more things that they want to talk about with each other, one on one kind of. Next day, Nesta has this gut feeling that something is not quite right, but she doesn't really know what. She tells this to Feyre, to Rhysand, and the rest, and they kind of inspect everything, but they can't really find anything wrong until they find out that Hybern destroyed the wall. So they are planning to start the war and attack the human realm, basically, in order to enact his revenge on Feyre and Nesta and Elaine. Because Feyre is quite desperate and she has to gather like all of the allies that she can gather for this war that already started, and they were not really prepared for it to start this early. She goes to the library. If you remember from the previous events of this book, her and Nesta were attacked at some point in this library from Valaris by two of Hybern's ravens. And she struck a deal with this monster from the library, right? So she's thinking, oh, maybe I can strike another deal with this creature and maybe he can help us in the war. She goes there, she learns that the name of this creature is Bryaxis, and everything that Bryaxis wants in exchange for his help is for the cave in which he is currently in to have like a window towards the night sky and the stars and everything like that. So Feyre's like, okay, like you help us and we will make that happen. Strangely enough, we learned that Jurian is not actually the bad guy and he kind of stayed on Hybern's side just to gain intel on what they're planning to do next so they can help Rhysand and the other fairies. Like it's kind of still, like we couldn't really see that coming. Like it was not hinted at all in the previous books, in the previous things that happened that included Jurian. Like that was kind of out of nowhere, and there are a lot of things that kind of like come out of nowhere towards the end of this book. But Jurian is apparently on our side. Cool. Feyre has exhausted all of her options. Like she doesn't know what to do anymore. The war already started. They see how many forces Hybern has, and she's thinking like, oh, we can't really win this with the forces that we have so far. So she goes hunting for the suriel yet again. She goes to the woods, she finds the suriel. The suriel is giving her a spell for Amren from the Book of Breedings that can potentially kind of like destroy the cauldron or something along those lines. It's still not clear in my head what happened with that. But in that moment, Feyre and the suriel are attacked by Ayanti. Ayanti is here, everyone.
Surprise, bitch. I bet you thought you'd seen the last of me.
Ayanti, she should have been dead by now. Like, I don't understand. Anyway, Ayanti apparently tracked the suriel and she put a tracking spell on him so that when Feyre goes to see the suriel next, Ayanti is alerted, kind of. Ayanti, or one of the guards that she was with, because again, she's working with Hybern, shot the suriel with one of those arrows that's imbued with ash. So the suriel is very badly hurt. Feyre, because she sees that the cottage of the weaver is very close to where they are at, she is basically tricking Ayanti and the guards that she's with to go after her. And she just traps them in the cottage of the weaver, and obviously the weaver kills them. And next up, there's this scene with the death of the suriel that is like so heart-wrenching. I want to read you the exact scene and what the suriel says to Feyre before he dies. Feyre Archeron, the suriel said again, gazing at the leafy canopy, the sky peeking through it. A painful inhale, a request. I leaned close. Anything. Another rattling breath. Live this world a better place than how you found it. And as its chest rose and stopped altogether, as its breath escaped in one last sigh, I understood why the suriel has come to help me again and again. Not just for kindness, but because it was a dreamer. And it was the heart of a dreamer that had ceased beating inside that monstrous chest. Its sudden silence echoed into my own. I laid my head on its chest, on that now silent vault of bone, and wept. I wept and wept until there was a strong hand at my shoulder. I cried for like a couple of minutes when I read this scene the first time. It was so emotional. Like for a character that made only like 3 appearances in all of the books from this series thus far, the suriel is like really the MVP of this series for me personally. Well, probably with the exception of Nesta and Amren, but they're kind of like secondary to the suriel in my eyes. After the death of the suriel, Feyre goes back to the camp Moore is really pissed at her because she didn't let anyone know what she was doing or where she was in that specific period of time, and they were all really worried about her. And as they were talking, they start thinking, oh, where's Elaine? Well, apparently Elaine was kidnapped by Hybern. So now Feyre and Asriel go to the Hybern camp to save Elaine. They infiltrate Hybern's camp. Feyre is disguised as Ayanti because they don't know that she's dead yet. And with the help of Jurian, they rescue Elaine. But the catch is that Hybern was made aware of that. He's somehow able to track them, and the only way that they can escape is basically for Feyre to fly, because they find this other like human girl that's held hostage in this camp, and Feyre wants to save her as well. So Asriel can't really carry Feyre, Elaine, and this other girl that they found there. Feyre manages to fly, but with the help of Tamlin. So Tamlin is actually helping them escape. Together with Elaine and this other girl. Back at the camp, Moore, because she feels remorseful as to how she spoke to Feyre in their last interaction, Moore comes out to Feyre. She's basically bisexual, and the reason for which she's not attracted to Asriel is because she doesn't love him like that. Like, she loves him as a brother, as a member of her family, but she doesn't love him as like a romantic partner, let's say. And she also tells Feyre that she's like more attracted to women than men, but she's kind of like had experiences, let's say, with both women and men. Hybern plans to attack the human realm. Rhysand and all of the other fairies that can winnow are going to the human realm to basically evacuate as many humans as possible to the summer court to help them and to rescue them from Hybern's attack. Feyre finally faces the Ouroboros, and this is a missed opportunity, I think, in the book, because we don't really know what's happening with the Ouroboros. It's just like what Feyre remembers about it later on when she talks to the bone carver. But apparently the Ouroboros shows you your true self with both like your good sides and your bad sides, and Feyre was able to resist to that and to process who she truly is and to accept that. So she retrieves the Ouroboros, she goes back in the prison to the bone carver, and the bone carver, turns out he didn't really need the mirror, the Ouroboros. He just wanted to see if Feyre can accept who she truly was or some bullshit like that, and he agrees to help her in the war. So now they don't only have the help of the monster from the library, but also the help of the bone carver. The next day is also revealed that Rhysand made a similar deal with the weaver. So now they have three monsters that they can basically count on to help them in the war. We will learn later that these are not really enough, but so far they're pretty pleased with themselves. This is where the plot feels very, very convenient for the good guys in the story, because all of a sudden Feyre's and Nesta's and Elaine's father makes an appearance. I don't think he actually has a name, like it's just referred to as their father, but he comes to their help with these three ships with like military forces. He named these ships after his three daughters, Feyre, Nesta, and Elaine, as he was feeling quite guilty with the fact that he was not really able to help them thus far in their lives, and he somehow learned about this war and he came to help them basically with military forces. In the exact same moment, Lucian also comes with Vasa, that like sixth queen that is somehow a firebird, and there's this curse put on her that she's a firebird by day and a queen by night. That's not really addressed. I'm really curious to see if this will come up later in the series and what's really happening with Vasa and her curse. Guess who's also there? I think I didn't mention these characters thus far in the story, but there was this whole plot point with some of Moore's and Rhysand's friends from the war that was happening like 100 years ago with the mortals and the fairies, and somehow Jurian was involved with these two friends that they had. Anyway, it's a whole thing, but these two friends also come to help them, and they have like a whole army of winged creatures, winged fairies. Again, kind of murky what's happening with those, but they also have them helping them in the war. The King of Hybern kills Feyre's father, and then Elaine kills the King of Hybern, but she didn't know that he killed their father, so it's this whole like killing spree that starts to happen between all of the parties involved. And now that the king is dead, they realize that the war is not just stopping because the king is dead. Like the forces from Hybern are still attacking them. It's not over yet, and they are quite scared about that. Amren somehow pulls this stunt, and it comes across as though she is betraying Feyre, but not really. Basically, Amren's plan and what the Suriel told Feyre to tell Amren is that the only way to win this war is for Amren to regain her true self. If you remember from the previous interactions that we had with Amren and from the previous books, she's kind of like this almighty creature that's trapped in this human body so that she could escape from the prison. And she has to unleash that like larger than life form of herself to help them basically win the war. So she does that. But the catch is that, so she will most probably not going to be able to remember Rhysand and Feyre and all of her friends, and she will not be able to come back. Allegedly, she comes back later, but for the moment, we just think she will not be able to return. Feyre does the spell, Amren becomes her true self, she unleashes her powers towards the enemy forces, and they're just like wiped off of the earth. So they win, hooray. But because they can't have a moment of peace, apparently the cauldron just like breaks, like it splits, because turning Amren to her truest self was kind of like a lot. Like Amren has a lot of power, and she basically broke the cauldron when she transformed. The cauldron, because is linked to the life force and the land that they are living in, the earth somehow starts to shake. So basically, it's kind of like the end of their world if they're not able to repair the cauldron. Feyre is drained of power because she thought she made a spell with Amren and everything. So she's quite drained of powers. Rhysand is also drained of his force, but they think that between the two of them, they have like enough power to basically repair the cauldron. So Rhysand is lending the last drop of power that he has to Feyre. Feyre is able to mend the cauldron. It is now fully restored. But the catch is that Rhysand was so drained that he dies. And I was like, okay, like he dies, whatever. Moving on, like what's gonna happen next? Well, turns out that they pulled the same stunt that they pulled on Feyre when she dies at the end of the first book. All of the High Lords that are there are just like sprinkling their like magical fairy powder on Rhysand, and he is brought back to life. And not only that, but Rhysand took also Amren to the real world, because apparently he was kind of like in this limbo place right after he died, and Amren was also there, and he was able to just like pull her through and bring her back. So everyone's brought back to life, with the exception of the Suriel. The fact that the Suriel is still dead, oh my god. Oh my god. And yeah, this is pretty much the end of the book. They win the war, everyone's safe and sound. Feyre is trying to renegotiate the treaty between the humans and the fairies because she thinks she can, improve the relationship between the two peoples. That's pretty much the end of ACOWAR. Honestly, this was such a journey. Like, as much as I'm shitting on the nonsensical things that are happening and the plot points that don't really make sense, and how convenient some of the things that are happening feel for the situation of these characters, right? I really did enjoy this book. I still don't know if I enjoyed it more or less than Aka Math, but it's still like somewhere there in the 4.5 stars territory. So yeah, I really liked this book. I think for the moment I will just like take a little break from the world of ACOWAR just because I feel like this is the main trilogy. Like I can just stop here. I will not though, like I will be continuing reading the other two books later on, but for the moment I feel like I just kind of need a break and to read some other things. But with that, I have a lot of editing to do in these upcoming days. So thank you all so much for watching. Like, subscribe, do all of the things if you want to, and I will see you soon with a new video or a new reading vlog. Take care. Bye bye.